You are not waiting to become rich. You are not hoping that someday the world will recognize your potential and bless you with abundance. No, the wealth, the freedom, the opulence you seek is already yours. It exists now, not in your bank account, not in your investments, but in your consciousness. Let me ask you something. If you were already a millionaire, truly, undeniably wealthy, would you walk the same? Would you speak, think, breathe the same as you do now? If not, then you are delaying the very riches that belong to you. For everything begins in the mind and manifests through assumption. You have been taught to look at facts, but the facts are nothing more than shadows cast by your own consciousness. If you want a different shadow, you do not fight the shadow. You change the light. You change the source. The source is you. The assumption you hold is the projector of your life. I tell you, dare to feel it real. Not tomorrow, not when the loan clears, not when the business takes off. But now, assume the state of being a millionaire in this moment. Not as a hope, not as a fantasy, but as a fact. Walk as one who already possesses. Think as one who already holds the key. You do not manifest wealth by striving, by struggling, by chasing opportunities. You manifest it by being it. Consciousness is the only reality, and if you occupy the state of wealth, the world cannot help but echo your assumption. Doors will open, ideas will flood in, people will arrive, and circumstances will conspire, all to align with the state you dared to claim in silence. The most powerful investment is not in stocks or real estate. It is in assumption. It pays dividends beyond this world, not in percentages, but in transformations. You are what you believe you are. And if today, in stillness, you assume you are the millionaire and persist in that feeling, then the world must rearrange itself to prove you right. The greatest illusion the world has ever taught you is that results come through effort alone, that you must hustle, strain, climb, and prove yourself worthy of the very things that are already yours by divine inheritance. But this is not truth. You were not born to toil in the outer world to make yourself rich, loved, successful, or free. You were born with the power to imagine. And this faculty, rightly used, is the creative force behind every event, every possession, and every condition you call your life. It is not action that creates your world. It is assumption, the world you walk through daily, the job you hold, the relationships you experience, the balance in your account, are all out picturings of inner states you have assumed to be true. The assumption is the cause, the outer is the effect. And yet men continue to run after effects, believing they must change things on the outside before their life will change. This is folly. A man may chase wealth for a lifetime and never touch it, simply because he refuses to believe he is wealthy now. Assumption is not wishing. It is not passive daydreaming. It is a deliberate claiming of identity. When you assume a state, you enter into a psychological agreement with it. You say, "This is who I am now." You may see no evidence of it in your current surroundings. The bills may remain unpaid. The opportunities may seem absent. But if you assume the state and persist in it with feeling, the world must rearrange itself to confirm your inner conviction. Let me make this plain. The outer world is dead until you breathe life into it through assumption. Every object, every person, every situation is but a mirror, reflecting your inner awareness of being. If you change the awareness, the reflection must follow. You cannot stand before a mirror and beg the reflection to smile. You must smile first, and the reflection will obey. So it is with life. The man who wishes to be rich must assume that he is rich. Not when the evidence appears, but before it does. The act of assuming wealth creates a vibrational and psychological shift within him. He begins to walk differently, think differently, respond to situations with poise and clarity. This new behavior does not come from effort. It flows naturally from the state he has accepted as his own. The world, sensing this change in him, reflects it through open doors, chance meetings, unexpected income, and intuitive ideas. This is not magic, it is law. You are always assuming something. Every second of your life, you are dwelling in a state, be it of lack, fear, pride, or abundance. The question is not whether you are assuming, but what you are assuming. And what you assume, you inevitably express. The body obeys the mind. The environment obeys the inner conversation. There is no exception to this. Even your failures are the result of assumptions. Unconscious ones, perhaps, but assumptions nonetheless. Effort without assumption is a fruitless climb. A man may labor for years, sacrificing sleep, health, and joy, only to find himself where he began, because inwardly he never left the state of struggle. Another man, quiet in his room, may assume the state of success, and without lifting a finger in strain, find himself led by invisible hands to circumstances that echo his inner world. The effort, then, must be within. The effort to believe, to persist in assumption, even when the senses scream otherwise. Do not confuse motion with creation. Business is not productivity. A frantic mind cannot create a calm result. But the man who assumes calmly, deliberately, and with feeling, he is the true creator. His world takes shape around him like clay responding to the hand of the sculptor. The hand is assumption. The clay is the world. Whatever image you impress upon it will become visible in time. So practice assumption as you would a sacred art. Do not merely say, I am wealthy. Feel what it would be like to live from that place. Ask yourself, how would I feel right now if I already had the money, the success, the recognition? Let that feeling flood your mind. Let it soak into your conversations, your posture, your tone. When the inner man accepts a thing as true, the outer man will soon live it. The key is to live from it, not think of it. To live from the end, as though it is already done. This is assumption. This is the secret. And this is the true cause of all creation. Wealth does not begin in the bank. It does not begin in the market, nor in your income, nor in any physical instrument of trade. It begins in the most invisible place of all, your own consciousness. You may search the world for opportunity, strategize, calculate, and negotiate, but if within yourself you remain impoverished in thought, poor in expectation, and uncertain in identity, no amount of physical striving will sustain your prosperity. The outer world can only deliver what you have first accepted as real within. Consciousness is the only cause. It is the root, the source, the fountain from which all effects flow. To possess money in your hand without the state of wealth in your mind is to carry water in a leaky vessel. It will slip through your fingers as quickly as it came. But the man who is rich in consciousness, who walks as though he is already supported by the unseen current of abundance, will find that the world must rise to meet his inner command. He may begin with little, but he will not end with little, for the state within him is pregnant with wealth. Most people misunderstand this and believe they must first earn their way into wealth, that they must prove themselves, climb ladders, impress others, or wait on favorable luck. But what they fail to realize is that the currency of the world is a reflection, not a source. It is the echo of the inner voice. You cannot build a new reality while echoing old beliefs. Until you rise into the state of prosperity in your imagination, the material evidence will remain absent, and even if it comes, it will not last. Imagine a man who lives in fear of losing his job. He saves frantically, hoards what little he has, and rehearses thoughts of scarcity. Though he may appear responsible to the world, inwardly he dwells in lack. And lack, like any state, must bear fruit. Eventually, his fears materialize. The company downsizes, or a sudden expense wipes out his savings. Why? Because his consciousness, not his employer or the economy, was the architect of his reality. Now take another man who dares to feel wealthy now. Though he may have nothing visible to confirm it, he walks in the assumption that he is rich. not someday but now. He speaks with calm confidence, blesses others in prosperity, gives freely, and expects more to flow to him. This man has touched the real source. He has turned away from shadow and fixed his attention upon the light. And because he has built the state of wealth in consciousness, he will soon see its reflection in the world around him. This is not fantasy, it is law. The world is a mirror, and your life is but the glass reflecting what you are conscious of being. Think not about riches, think from riches. Move mentally into the mansion long before you have the key. Sit at the banquet in your imagination long before the table is set. Dwell in the state of wealth, not as a visitor but as a resident. Then and only then will the outer world take on the shape of your inner dominion. Money is not the cause of freedom. Freedom is the cause of money. When you free yourself inwardly from the identity of struggle, when you release the belief that wealth is something distant or difficult, when you assume, not beg, but assume, the feeling of already being supplied, then you begin to live by divine law. The riches may come through ideas, people, events, or opportunities, but make no mistake, the seed of all of it was planted in your consciousness. The subconscious accepts what you feel to be true. It does not argue. It does not weigh the facts. It simply reflects the dominant mood. If your dominant mood is, I am prosperous, the channels will open. If your dominant mood is, I lack, even the channels you have will close. You must train yourself to feel the reality of wealth, even in the absence of evidence. For the evidence will come after the feeling, never before. The senses will try to deceive you. They will tell you to wait until the money arrives to feel wealthy. But if you wait for the physical to give you permission to believe, you will remain in waiting. The power lies in believing now, in assuming now, in embodying the truth now, regardless of what your bank statement says. This is the work. This is the discipline. To live inwardly from the state you desire until the world has no choice but to comply. So let your wealth begin today. Not with a deposit or a raise, but with an idea. The idea that you already are what you wish to be. The idea that your inner state, and not the outer circumstance, is the one true treasure chest. From it, all things flow. There is a truth that few grasp. Yet it is the cornerstone of all conscious creation. Nothing appears in your world unless you have first felt it real in the silence of your own soul. Every event, every condition, every possession, every relationship, all of it began not with action, not with effort, but with a feeling. The world you see is the crystallized record of emotions that were once invisible within you. Therefore, to change your life, you must change the feeling from which you live. Thoughts are important, but it is not the thought alone that creates. It is the emotional acceptance of that thought as real, the feeling of its truth, that plants the seed. The mind can toy with 1,000 possibilities, but the heart chooses the one it believes. And what the heart believes, the subconscious receives as instruction. Once it is received, it begins to build, not in imagination only, but in form, in structure, in the visible dimension we call life. To feel something real is not the same as pretending. Pretending is play without belief. Feeling it real is the deliberate inner experience of already having, already being, already knowing what is desired. It is stepping into the version of yourself who lives in the fulfillment of that desire, and making that version of you the only one you respond from. You do not need evidence before you feel. It is the feeling itself that gives rise to the evidence. Let us say a man desires to be healthy. He may read books on healing, take supplements, follow routines, and listen to advice. But if in his heart he continues to feel sick, to identify with the ailment, to look at himself through the lens of struggle, all his external efforts will fight against an inner state that still believes in disease. But if he quiets his body, turns within, and begins to feel himself whole, not as a hope, but as an inner certainty. Then the healing begins, for the body must respond to the vibration of the consciousness that governs it. The same is true of wealth, of love, of confidence, of success. If you desire riches, you must feel yourself as already possessing them. Walk through your day with the quiet dignity of someone who lacks nothing. Let your tone, your breath, your posture reflect the feeling of abundance. If you desire love, do not search for it desperately. Instead, feel what it would be like to be cherished now. Let that warmth fill you. Let it guide your responses and soften your gaze. This is not fantasy. This is creation in its truest form. The feeling must not be fleeting. It must be accepted and sustained long enough to leave its imprint on the subconscious. You impress the subconscious not with repetition alone, but with emotion. The deeper the feeling, the quicker the result. Your outer life always reflects the feeling you hold most consistently. This is why you must be careful what you dwell on emotionally, for what you feel becomes your reality. Now, this feeling need not come from any external stimulus. It is an act of deliberate choice. You can close your eyes, turn away from the world, and conjure the sensation of your desire fulfilled. Ask yourself, what would I feel right now if this were already true? That question is the doorway. The answer, when emotionally embraced, is the path to manifestation. Your feelings are not merely reactions to life. They are the creators of it. The senses may deny the feeling at first. They will point to what is and demand that you be reasonable. But you must learn to ignore appearances and persist in the feeling of what will be. This is not denial. It is creation. You are not turning away from the world out of fear, but because you know the world is your own projection, and that your work is not out there but within. This work is silent, private, invisible. You may go about your day as usual, but within, you are holding the feeling of a new truth. You are rich, you are loved, you are radiant, you are free. Now, you feel it in your breath, in your walk, in your conversations, in the space between thoughts. And because you do, the world must conform. It has no choice but to reflect your inner knowing. You cannot feel lack and attract wealth. You cannot feel loneliness and draw connection. The law does not bend to hopes or words. It responds only to the dominant emotional state. So make your feelings sacred. Guard them. Direct them with intention. And when you find the feeling of your desire fulfilled, hold it, nourish it, return to it often. That feeling is the seed, and from it, all things grow. Once a state is assumed, truly and deeply accepted, it becomes your invisible home. You may continue to live in the same physical house, go to the same workplace, speak to the same people, but inwardly you have moved. You have relocated from doubt to certainty, from wanting to fulfillment, from waiting to already having. This inner relocation is what truly determines the experiences that will unfold around you. And the key to unlocking the manifestation is not a single moment of belief, but a sustained loyalty to that state. Faithfulness is the great secret. To be faithful to a state means you remain emotionally anchored in it, regardless of what your senses report. You do not check the outer world for validation. You do not dig up the seed to see if it has sprouted. You walk as though the seed has already taken root and is bearing fruit. Even if the world seems unchanged, even if appearances seem to contradict your assumption, you remain undisturbed. Your trust is not in appearances. Your trust is in the state you've chosen to occupy. Everything in your life now is the outpicturing of a state you were once faithful to. Whether you knew it or not, you gave it your energy, your attention, your feeling. That old identity, the one you wore so naturally, is what shaped your world. Now that you seek change, you must choose a new state and remain loyal to it. Loyalty is not rigid effort. It is gentle but persistent alignment. You are not forcing the outer world to obey. You are simply refusing to abandon the truth that you have already accepted within. Suppose you have assumed the state of wealth. To be faithful to that state means you no longer worry about money, speak in tones of scarcity, or entertain images of insufficiency. You do not do this to impress anyone. You do this because it would be unnatural for someone who truly believed in their abundance to live in contradiction to it. You begin to think, feel, and respond as that version of yourself would, naturally, effortlessly, with poise. And when doubt arises, as it sometimes will, you gently return to your chosen state and dwell there again. This is the discipline, not of effort, but of fidelity. The mind will often want to roam, to revisit the familiar patterns of fear and limitation. But you must treat your new state as sacred. Guard it like a flame in the wind. Keep it alive by returning to the feeling of its reality again and again, until it becomes your new natural. When the feeling of the wish fulfilled becomes more familiar to you than the feeling of the wish desired, you are near its physical realization. The outer world has no choice but to reflect the inner conviction. That is not philosophy, it is law. But the reflection often lags behind the assumption. This is why many falter. They assume for a day or a week, then declare it didn't work. But what they do not see is that the new state is already working behind the scenes, reconfiguring people, events, opportunities, and timing. Your only responsibility is to remain faithful. Not for a result, but because you have already become the one you wish to be. Faithfulness transforms. It changes the tone of your conversations, the rhythm of your thoughts, the way you carry yourself in silence. And the world, being a mirror, begins to echo that change. People speak to you differently. Doors that were shut begin to open. Synchronicities appear. Not by your command, but by your alignment. You are no longer forcing outcomes. You are allowing the natural unfolding of your assumed identity. And if you ever find yourself tempted to doubt, remember this: you are not reacting to the world. You are revealing the world through your state. To give attention to the outer condition is to step out of the state, but to remain unmoved, even when nothing appears to be happening, is the mark of true mastery. It is in that quiet, consistent faith that creation takes root and flourishes. So remain in the state, not as a chore, not as a performance, but as a natural result of having already become what you once sought. Speak from it, think from it, feel from it, live from it, and the world will bow to your inner loyalty, not because you forced it to, but because it had no other choice. The world will always tempt you with the chase. It will present before you 100 shining things, always just out of reach, and whisper, if only you run a little faster, work a little harder, try a little longer, then maybe you will be worthy of the reward. But the truth is far more profound and far more liberating. What you truly seek is not found in the chase, but in the stillness of your own inner world. All that appears without is born within, and what you cultivate inwardly with conviction and feeling will return to you pressed down, shaken together, and running over. You may spend your whole life climbing ladders, networking, proving your worth, adjusting your outer actions to fit someone else's idea of success. And yet, if the inner man remains rooted in doubt, fear, and insufficiency, all your achievements will collapse or slip through your fingers. The outer chase produces temporary gain. The inner assumption builds permanent wealth. Not just monetary wealth, but wealth of mind, of peace, of love, of power. It is the only investment that pays eternal dividends. Everything begins with the seed of awareness. That seed does not lie in the world of effort. It lies in your imagination. There is no outcome you desire that does not first require its blueprint to be accepted within you. But most people are so busy reacting to what is, they never stop to revise what could be. They live in bondage to their senses, checking the outer world for permission to believe. They spend energy in action, but little in assumption. They strategize but rarely imagine. Yet imagination is the only power that creates reality. When you imagine something and feel it as real, you have already begun the process of its unfolding. The world may tell you to wait for evidence, but the inner world teaches you that evidence is the echo, not the origin. All things begin in consciousness. Every form you see today is the shadow of an old belief, an old assumption once held in feeling. If you want a new experience, you must plant a new seed, not in effort but in imagination. Not in hustle but in faith. The dividends of inner work cannot be measured by the clock. They come swiftly to the faithful and slowly to the doubtful, but they always come. If you persist in the state of being that aligns with your desire, if you carry it not just in thought, but in feeling, then the world must comply. It may not come in the way you expect, but it will come in the only way it can, through reflection of your inner self. Life becomes a mirror, and it has no power to show you anything but what you hold within. Now consider how much energy is spent chasing things outside the self. Validation, wealth, titles, positions, applause. All of it is fleeting, and even when obtained, it requires constant defense and effort to maintain. Why? Because it was not drawn from within, it was grasped at from without. But the man who turns inward and aligns himself with his desired identity and feeling, he need not chase, he becomes. And because he becomes, the world flows to meet him. This man is not concerned with appearances. He knows that appearances are only the surface, and surface changes nothing. He is concerned with depth, with cultivating the feeling of already being what he seeks to become. If he desires abundance, he dwells in abundance, not as wishful thinking, but as a quiet certainty. If he desires love, he does not beg or plead. He radiates love because it already lives within him, and the world, sensing this inner reality, mirrors it back faithfully. True riches come not from action, but from alignment, not from strain, but from surrender. When you align your feeling with your desired state and persist there, the results are inevitable. This inner world becomes the factory of your life. The outer world merely ships the product. And the more attention you give to your inner assumption, the more beautiful and abundant your life must become. You are always paying into some account. Every thought, every emotion, every self-concept is a deposit. Most people deposit fear and lack daily, then wonder why their life yields interest on those things. But when you begin to deposit faith, confidence, joy, and imagination of fulfilled desires, the interest compounds, and the return will come in forms you never expected. This is why the inner world is the only world that truly matters. It is the silent cause of every visible thing. Tend to it with care, live in it with devotion, and know that the treasures it brings forth will exceed anything the chase could ever offer. It is the secret vault, and within it, every form of wealth awaits you. So now you know, you are not here to wait, to strive, or to earn your greatness through hardship. You are here to assume it, to feel it, to live it now. The outer world is not your master, it is your mirror. If you would see wealth, become wealth within. If you would receive love, become the lover in your own soul. If you would command success, walk in the certainty that success is already yours. All power is within you. Every condition, every circumstance, every outcome is shaped by the state you faithfully occupy. And the moment you dare to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, not as a game, but as a knowing, the universe begins its quiet reordering. Do not ask how it will come. Do not wait for proof. Be it now. Enter the scene of your life as the one who has already received, already accomplished, already transformed. Live as the millionaire now, and the world must echo your faith. For your inner world, that sacred unseen dwelling place, is the only treasury that pays eternal dividends. Remain loyal to the state. Feel it real. Guard the assumption, and let the world fulfill its role to reflect back to you the glorious being you have chosen to become.